Perfect. Great. So I've been on mute the whole time. As I said, we just started moving in and some new changes are coming. So I apologize. We'll have this out for the replay for the folks who couldn't hang tough. Sorry about that. Thanks for the message. So as you have questions as we go through the content today, please jump in and leave us. You can put a message in the comments. If you signed up for StreamYard, I'll be able to see your name, but otherwise I'll just see you as Facebook user, but we'll absolutely answer any questions you have as we go through. My name is Craig Anderson. I am the president of Clear Path Coaching and Consulting. I will not drag you through the whole introduction again. Suffice to say, I grew up through corporate America after getting an English degree and really had to adapt myself to become a leader in those organizations, even though often I did not feel like I had the same background or experience that was really necessary for me to grow in that business. So what we're going to talk about today are the 3 things that you need to focus on in your new leadership role. Now, that could be your first leadership role. It could be you coming into a new company in the leadership role, or it could even be you growing your own business to the point where you have to take on a leadership role. So any of those 3 things, these tips that we're going to provide you today are going to help you get there. So for me, my very first leadership role, as I said in some of the promo for this, was band president. Not necessarily the most glamorous leadership role, I will grant, but I will tell you that I handled it poorly. One of the core mistakes, and I think people continue to make these mistakes through their career, was just because I have the title, I have the power. And with the title, you can make people do things and you can get things done, but you're not really a leader. And those are 2 distinctly different things. Being in charge and being a leader are different things altogether. And we really want to talk about how you can be a leader for your people, for your organization, to really help them grow and be successful. And that was the lesson I took away from that role in retrospect, was just because I had the title, that really didn't make me the person who was leading us forward. So big problem I had there. I really abused the authority a lot in retrospect as I look at it. So don't do it that way. We don't want to go that way. As I grew up, though, I had a lot of individual contributor roles, had a lot of success as an individual contributor. And that's great. And one of the things that happens in organizations is they look at you as that individual contributor and they say, well, if you're good at that, you're going to be good at leadership, and they put you in that leadership role. And that is not that's not necessarily the best thing. Sometimes you're really just a great individual contributor, and we need to find ways to help you grow on that path. Other times you are in that leadership role and you do have some abilities kind of innately to be able to lead, but those have to be developed. You have to learn the tools and the skills to be able to do that. So how do we start to do that? Well, one, a lot of companies don't do it very well. They put you in the role and then they just kind of walk away. Why? Because that's how they grew up, and they figure, well, if it was good enough for me, it's good enough for you. And that's not okay. So what do we need to do? What are the first 3 things that we want to focus on when we become a new leader? So we're going to talk about those 3 things today. So the first one is just this idea of listening before you act. When you're an individual contributor, or you have a small business and you're just kind of giving people some direction, that can work for a while. But when you get into that leadership role, you really have to start realizing that now it's not me getting things done. It's me getting things done through other people. So how do I do that? Where do I start? And the first thing that we want to talk to you about doing is to listen before you act. So what does that mean? It's when you step into that new role, don't go in with a lot of preconceived notions. Don't go in thinking you know it all, even if it's in the same organization. You really want to start out listening to the people who are supporting you. Listen to your leadership team. Go out and talk, if you have different layers, talk to people throughout the organization that you're now leading. Understand, what are the challenges? What are the opportunities they have? What do they see as going well? What do they see as not going well? And really make that your habit for the long term of your leadership role. You can't just assume you know everything. You can't always assume you're getting the full story from your leadership team or direct reports around you. Not because they're filled with guile and they want you to fail, but everybody filters things through their own perception. So it's really important for you to keep your fingers on the pulse of the organization by making yourself available, being around the people in the organization so you can hear what's going on. And some people say, well, that's not my job. I just have to manage through other people. But you really will benefit from having that touch point with the people in the organization. So make sure that that is something you do intentionally, especially early on, to start to learn, to start to listen, before you start taking a whole bunch of actions. You may take actions, maybe they'll work, maybe they won't. Chances are they won't. So you really want to start out listening, and then you can start making decisions. Then you can start thinking through, what do we want to pursue? What do we not want to pursue? You can cross-check some of the things that you heard, start doing some research. Now, there's this kind of magical 90-day rule of thumb that's out there. It doesn't have to be 90 days. It could be 30 days, but really make sure you're acting based on solid information that you've collected yourself. Dig in, roll up your sleeves, figure out what's going on, then start making the decisions, because then you do need to take on that leadership aspect to your business. You do need to figure out, where do we need to start making changes? How can I take this team and this group of individuals or this company and start moving things forward? So rule 1, listen before you act. 2, time management and prioritization. This was one that just hit me upside the head when I started leading teams of people. Because again, you're used to that individual contributor role. You're used to a large extent, controlling your time. Granted, your boss can throw a monkey wrench in your day quite easily. And if you're mid-level management, they can still do that. But now you're having to work with other people and achieve things through those other people. So what do you do with that? Well, what you've got to do with that is you've got to figure out how to manage my time and how to prioritize the work that I'm getting done, and really realize that your job is less about getting individual tasks done now, as making sure overall the work is getting done through your team and through your area. So from a time management perspective, one really great practice that I learned was scheduling time with the people who work for me. Your direct report team, always having weekly, maybe bi-weekly, but usually weekly one-on-ones. Doesn't have to be long. It's 15 minutes, 30 minutes. It's a touch base, it's a check-in, and it's their meeting, not your meeting. It's their opportunity to sit with you, provide you with any information that you need, but also get clarity from you on issues that they're facing, challenges that they're having. Because when you give the people the time to meet with you, you're going to have fewer interruptions bouncing at you throughout the day. Because otherwise, if you're not giving that time to come in and talk to you, everything's going to pop up as it comes into their head, and they're going to be in your office. Again, it's not out of malice, but it's how people will react. So if you give them that designated time to check in with you, it's going to let you get through the big issues that they really need help with, so they can get the work done that ultimately needs to get done for your whole group. Another thing that I recommend that you do as your time management is make sure that you just have some open time. One of the best pieces of advice I got, especially when I was running my own small business, was get out and be in front of your people from time to time. Find some work you can do that you can get done even if you're interrupted a lot. And then go out. I used to go out in the break area. We had a call center business, and people would really arrive for the call center between 8 and 10 in the morning. So I would always make sure I carved some time into my schedule every day to be out in that area during those times, so that I could interact, so I could hear what was going on, so I could overhear what was going on and engage in those conversations. That drives employee engagement. It informs you better as the owner. And it carves out time where you can actually, if people want to approach you and bring something up, they know that that's that free time to do it. So it gives you that opportunity, and it's built into your schedule, so you know the kind of work you can get done during that time. Then when you're going back to your office to really do the heads down work that you need to do, you can do that in a way that you're not interrupted all the time, because you've given your direct reports time to meet with you. You've made yourself accessible to the team so they can check in with you. So you really have less interruptions, even though you're spending time doing meetings that you might say, well, that's when I need to do my heads down work. It will ultimately save you time. And then when you're doing the heads down work, really prioritize your work. Before you sit down and start working, think about the priorities that you have, about what you need to get done and how you're going to make those priorities. It could be things for your boss. It could be things that you need so your team can move something forward that they need a decision from you. So really make sure as you become a leader, you prioritizing the work that you're doing is crucial to your success. So I really encourage you to make sure you've set the priorities. And we've talked before a lot about business plans and having your project priorities there and aligning your work with that. So make sure you know what your overall priorities are so you can drive your work forward. Number 3, and the last one we want to talk about, and this is huge, especially if you're just unsure about how to deal with people, because this is delegation and accountability. Asking people to do things easy to do. Asking them to do things that are important in the right way, not so easy. Dealing with it when they don't do the work you need them to do can be super hard. These are all conversations that you have to really think through about how you want to handle these conversations. So, delegation. When you are setting out to delegate work to somebody, what do you need to do? You need to be really clear about the parameters of what it is you're asking to be done. You need to be really clear about what the end product needs to look like. Is it a PowerPoint? Is it a paper? Is it a conversation? What do you want them to do? So they don't waste time doing things you don't need. And so they're doing the things that are important. So make sure you describe what the end state looks like. Make sure they have the information they need to get started. The piece in the middle about how they get it done, don't get hooked up in that. People do work the way they do work. And you as the leader need to be less concerned. Now it needs to be ethical and it needs to be, legal and all those things. But don't get hung up about the how, as long as you are very clear about the why and about the when. So why you're doing it, what it needs to look like, and the when of when you need that back. That is the key towards effective delegation. Schedule, again, we talked about having those one-on-ones with your direct reports. This is a point where they can check in and ask questions on something you might delegate to them, give you a quick update so you know what's going on. Because what's also important when you're delegating is you want to keep a pulse on kind of how it's going so you don't get into that worry. Don't hover. Don't sit on top of them and ask them every time you see them. Schedule that time, as we talked about in time management, to check in with, so they can give you the updates that you need. So in case you get asked a question, you know what's going on. I worked with somebody when I was at Chase, and she was an amazing delegator. There was nothing she didn't know about what was going on. The work got done on time. Her staff was well trained. She was really good at being clear about what she wanted, when she needed it, and making sure she had ample time for them to check in. And it was amazing. Never missed a beat, that one. So really important. Now, what's the flip side of delegation is accountability. Again, I just said, we don't need to worry about the how. We can have some milestones that they can check in with us in our weekly one-on-ones. But sometimes they're not going to get it done. And that's when you have to shift to an accountability mode. I really believe we give people the trust to get the job done. We give them the information they need to get the job done. We put them in a position to succeed. But if they fail because they didn't get the things done they needed to get done, that's when we have to shift to a somewhat different mindset. One, we have to have the conversation. Don't want to blow up, really not the way to do it. But what we do need to do is have a conversation with them about what got in the way, what caused you to struggle in the success of this project. Understand what's going on. And then correct them, talk about having the constructive conversation about how they can do better in the future. And then in the next couple of projects that you delegate to them, you're going to have to be more involved. And that's okay. That's now we've shown you've got some deficiencies, some opportunities to grow. We're going to help you do that. We're going to show you the way to be better. And then, so we're going to be a little more hovery for the period of the next couple of projects. And if they're successful, then you can pull back and go to the first delegation plan that we talked to. So that's really the critical pieces for how you can be successful in both delegating work and accountability. One of the toughest things to realize when you get into a position of leadership is you can no longer do all the work. You have to find out how to get things done through other people. That's why it's such a problem for people who are excellent individual contributors moving into leadership roles, because what you're doing in leadership is you're trying to help them understand. You're trying to get things done through other people. You're having to assign things to get done. So, and you have to get input from those people because you're no longer down in the weeds of everything that's going on. So it's a very different position for you to be in. It's a very difficult position if you're not getting coached or mentored or trained. And in many cases, you're probably not getting coached or mentored or trained. We talked about that last week. Companies don't build really strong mentoring organizations. Leaders in the organization aren't really told that it's important for them to learn how to be coaches. So oftentimes people in those entry-level and mid-level management roles are left to sink or swim. And it's the way people do things. It's not the right way people do things, but it is the way people do things. So it's really crucial for you to stay on top of this and get the help you need. And we'll talk about all the different things that you're going to need to do to be successful as a new leader in coming weeks. So one of the things that will help you become a better leader is to really know yourself better. And that's where the core values index that can come in. I would encourage you to use that link that we've got down on the scroll right now, clearpathcoaches.com/CVI. Take the core values index. It's going to take you about 10 or 15 minutes. It's really simple word pairings. You're going to get a great video that's going to tell you about yourself. You can read through it and you'll understand what the core energies are that drive you and why you react the way you do and why you do things and why you make decisions the way you do, why you take actions the way you do, and also why you have such a hard time understanding why other people do things that you're just like, why would they do it that way? Core Values Index is a great tool, and as we're building out more of our content and our program for new leaders, it's going to be a core piece, because when you know yourself well, that's going to help you be a better leader for your company, for yourself, for your organization, so that you can get where you want to be professionally, get your company where they want to be, and have a more successful career. So sorry about the sound problems in the beginning. Didn't look down to see that mute, but hope you guys got some value out of it. If you're catching this on the replay, drop me a hashtag replay so I know you saw it. Ask any questions. I'll get the notification. I'll jump in and answer them for you. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next week on Clear Path Leadercast. Bye.